Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
Hello and a very warm welcome to the first edition of Heroes at Work, where we talk to captains of the industry trying to get to understand their journey. Well, I'm Chaman Makadi. This is Brand Live Radio coming to you from our studios in Melville, Johannesburg. Of course, we are at 27 Boxes. Yes, today we are in studio live with somebody who you probably know. If you don't know, you have not been paying attention. Wow, I'm so excited to have Maurice Matlejwane, the director of Muji Productions, joining me live in studio.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mo.
Thank you. Thank you for that warm reception. I'm almost sure not too many people know me, but you know.
Wow. So Mo, it's so good to have you here with us. So I just want us to have a very simple, easy conversation. I mean, we talk about more the television and film producer who's been doing so much of work, successful in your own space. But it's these stories that are not told, which I hope today will be able to inspire somebody out there, particularly our young people who are always looking up to people like yourself and many others. Talk to me about your background. Let's firstly maybe just track down your story. Where do you come from? Where were you born?
Where do I come from? I come from a very small immediate family, 4 girls, nuclear family. You know,
Only girls.
Only girls.
Wow.
Only girls. I was the third of 4 girls, and you know, grew up with my parents, who were very blessed to still have them together. And I was born in Garankuwa, surprisingly enough.
Wow,
You
Garankuwa.
probably don't know about me, Chabana.
I thought Limpopo.
No, I wasn't. I was born in Garankuwa, just, not too far from us.
Okay.
And then we lived in Mpumalanga. It was basically my father's job that moved us there.
Yeah.
And we stayed there for a few years. I started schooling outside of, basically in Gauteng, and my sisters were elsewhere. And eventually we migrated, and I was still very young. So I've spent a good part of my life in Johannesburg, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay. Now talk to me about your career. How did you start? Film and television. Is it something that you've just learned along the way, or is it something that you studied for?
It was very intentional. I actually studied for it. I knew from my matric year, after actually being admitted.
I like that, by the way. It was very intentional. It was either this or nothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The vision was always very clear from a young age. Perhaps you don't know how it will unfold meticulously, but I was very clear about what I wanted to do. I perhaps had to be, because I had to pull out of my registration for civil engineering.
Wow.
Interestingly enough, at WITS, and I was just like, I'm determined. This is what I'm going to do.
Wow.
And I almost had to pitch it to my parents that this was actually a viable career.
Because most parents struggle to understand that you can actually
Absolutely.
take that as a career. If you want to be a musician, they think, when I was man, you're playing,
It's a hobby.
Yeah.
hobby.
You say you want to go into film and television. What are you going to do? Proper jobs is when you are, a doctor, if not a lawyer.
Yes, absolutely. So, just convincing them that it is legit. And I found a really great course at TUT, and I attended there for 3 years, specialized in producing. And I was very fortunate, I was planning on taking a bit of a, just being young, where you just like, let me just take a bit of a year, maybe travel and come back. But I just rolled into an internship at Take 5. just coming out of school, and it's almost like it's never stopped since then.
Wow. Wow.
You know, I was interning in the research department, and very soon after they felt that I was talented, and I started writing voiceover scripts. And you know, before I knew it, I was a junior researcher, and I was handling a lot more than the, you know, but I still steered towards production. You know, I think the next position I did was production coordinator. With Zone 14, season 1.
Oh yeah,
actually,
I remember. You know, those days. It used to be, you know, a hit in our screens, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, it was one of those groundbreaking shows. After you know, Bomb had successfully done Yizo Yizo, so you know, Zone 14 was like the next best thing that came out, just focusing around the soccer world and so on. So it was a really big show, and I grew so much just from that.
But how difficult would you say, Mo? How difficult is it to break into this industry? Because I meet a lot of young people in the streets, wherever you meet them, in the malls. They will tell you, I want to be an actor, I want to do this and that. How difficult or how easy is it to break it into like mainstream?
Well, you know, I think for on screen, and unfortunately, because so many young people have the impression that being on screen is the only way to get into the industry, it's probably the most difficult way to get into the industry. But if you are passionate about something behind the scenes, I truly believe that there is a path in which you can find you know, something that really speaks to you, and find an avenue through there. Breaking in, you see, it's a fortunate and unfortunate thing about our industry. It's a little bit informal. It's very rare that you hear that someone has actually studied for it. And people who are really great at what they do, and they haven't had the formal training, some of them. So it's not too formal, so it does make it easy to access. But to basically, you know, boast knowing the fundamentals of how it works, I think I would advise anyone to get, you know, the background schooling.
I'm listening to you, and you're touching on something very interesting for me. You know, the fact that you know, on screen is not the only thing that you can do in television. There are lots of these jobs that happens behind the scenes. I mean, people are producing, some are video editors.
Yes.
Do you just want to talk to me about that? Because young people don't seem to be aware of some of these things. I guess maybe everybody just want to be famous, but fame doesn't pay the bills, isn't it?
It doesn't, and unfortunately it also has a shelf life, you know. There's so much that leans on it. How do I look? How old am I? You know, race, creed, you know, gender. It's so influenced by so many factors that make you fit into a certain mold. But if you work behind the scenes, the opportunities are wider. You know, the span of work and how long you have a job is much longer. And you're still part of creating something magical, which I think we're all passionate about. At the end of the day, it's about this big picture we want to see up on a screen somewhere. And I think there are so many other passion areas that young people could find, you know, just in directing, in script writing. You know, our country doesn't have enough script writers.
I mean, talking about that, I mean, there's also so many stories to write about in South Africa. South Africa is this country with so much
rich,
history.
So rich with history, absolutely. We're not even tapping into enough regions of this country to even, you know, imagine that we're telling enough stories that could come out of it. So there's still so many opportunities for, you know, a small child in the Free State to come up with an amazing story about where they come from and their challenges, and something that could be absolutely unique to anything else we've ever seen. So, you know, there's so many opportunities for writing, and those are the things I'm really passionate about just getting young people to understand, you know, the vast opportunities that are available.
Wow, fantastic. So in studio with us today, it's Morishe Matlejwane, the director of Muji Productions. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a jiffy.
You're listening to brandlive.co.za.
The unique experience. Living as One Events presents relationship talks, drama, Q&A sessions,
music, love stories, ladies and gents session, and lots more. Registration fee at 150 Rand.
happening at Bread of Life Foundation Venue, Honeydew Shopping Center, Bayers Nordia Drive, corner Blueberry Drive, Unit 66. Laser Park, Honeydew. Saturday, 15 September at 11 a.m. RSVP on 072-851-8702.
Whether you're an athlete or just going about your day-to-day business, use Turbo Freeze on the go for any pain relief or inflammation. It's the #1 pain relief formula. To find out more, log on to our website www.turbofreeze.co.za.
Hey Benang, how are you?
Hi Tuli, look so beautiful. Hey, long time no see. What happened to your skin, by the way? The last time I saw you, you had a lot of blemishes and breakouts. It was so terrible, man.
Wow, thanks for that, Benang. Luckily, I discovered DMK. Have you heard of DMK?
DMK? Who are they?
DMK is a paramedical skincare brand that specializes in all skin conditions. Would you like their number?
Yes, please.
I know you're not good at numbers, so let me give you their website address because your skin looks terrible. It's www.dmkskincare.co.za.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. Brandlive.co.za.
Brand Live Radio, live from 27 Boxes in Melville, Johannesburg. I'm Chamano Makadi. Yes, in studio we're still excited talking to Maurice Matlejwane. We're still talking about young people, but I just want us to move a bit and talk about the industry itself. We're seeing more and more of work probably beginning to sort of move slightly, going into other provinces. Of course, you have big cities such as Cape Town, Johannesburg, and KZN right now. I mean, with even DIF taking place there almost every year. It also sort of paints a picture of a growth of the industry. Sure. But are we going to see this kind of initiative moving to other provinces, for example, Eastern Cape, Limpopo, Mpumalanga,
Yes, definitely. You've got organizations like the NFVF that are sitting at the forefront of advocating for these things to become more formal in all the provinces. I know that the Eastern Cape is taking shape. They're looking at a film commission office there. And I've also heard talks of the Northwest sometime in the near future. So I think we slowly are, starting to build those structures in the regions. So we need to basically make sure that we can capacitate that so that, these resources don't go to waste. Because I think in the past that has happened. There's been sort of dead film offices just sitting with no real work happening and so on. So I think that as industry key players, we have a responsibility to make sure that we're growing in totality. It doesn't help if I'm seen as the creme de la creme of producers, but I don't have fellow colleagues sort of coming up along with, and I'm also joining the greats that have come before me. And it's important and very relevant for us to make sure that we are growing the industry in a very lateral way.
Talk to me about some of the projects that you're currently working on, or maybe before we can even get to that. I mean, the journey, as we understand it, it's been a long one.
Yes.
Which, in your own words, you say it was very, deliberate. You were clear. This is what I wanted to do. Your days at ETV, your days at ACBC, particularly with Mubango. Talk to me about all of that.
Well, interesting enough, I actually started with my producing. I started with some of the gospel shows, and I was doing some magazine style shows. I've done a bit of educational shows. The Kalani Sesame being one of the biggest highlights of my career. Interestingly enough, it's one of the most complex shows I've ever produced,
and probably still popular up to this day, isn't it? I mean, popular in a sense, even if it may not be on screen, but people still remember that.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's linked to the big Sesame Street, New York based company, and it was a derivative of that concept that came into the country where we'd record these Muppets and so on in 5 different languages, and season after season. So it was a very interesting show. You learn a lot. Educational shows definitely keep you on your toes. I grew quite a lot from that. But I started moving into narrative. I produced Intsika, which was on SABC1.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, one of the bigger challenges, first challenges that I took on. It was a whole series, and it was again another growing experience, just working with multifaceted departments, and moving into narrative space was definitely a big growth for me. I've worked on comedies, I've worked on a number of shows actually, and coming into Mubango, I think was which is the most recent that I just came out of, before I became independent now, was by far, I think, one of the biggest challenges. And I was so grateful to have been be sitting at the helm of the flagship show for SABC2. It's the biggest show on SABC2, and the amount of exposure that's given me in terms of understanding the business side of film and television, I think is the important thing that's going to sort of propel my career forward, in understanding that it's not just about making pretty pictures and great stories. We need to turn this into a business that's viable to become a competitor and a vehicle for moving us forward economically. So
I'm interested in what you're saying, because when most people think of this, it's like, okay, it's just entertainment, but they don't see the business side of it, because yes, it might be entertainment, but it's business just like any other business. Just like when you have Ndate Richard Maponya running Maponya Mall, for example, and many other businesses that he's running. So the other thing that perhaps maybe that I'm just thinking of now is, it's a male-dominated industry. How are you finding it easy as a woman?
Yes and no. It is still very male dominated. It does make your fighting for space and to be heard that much more of a challenge. But I welcome the challenge, because in the same breath, I think this country's making great strides in empowering women and ensuring that we are in the forefront in certain areas where we are willing to step up. So and those are the kind of battles I'm looking to take on. Like I said, I think sitting at the helm of a show like Mubango, those spaces become more challenged. We basically, it was an opportunity for me as well to show that being a female producer, there is so much more that we can bring to an entity as big as that. And I think I think the challenges are there like anywhere else. I think if I was doing engineering, I'd be confronted with similar challenges. It's just a matter of are you up for it? Are you up for it?
Is there opportunities still in this industry? And I'm just looking at the fact that young people in their large numbers today. We're talking issues of unemployment, but if you to zoom into these particular industries, are there opportunities, and what are those opportunities?
There are. I'm such an optimist, and maybe that's just, I'm talking from a place of optimism. I think the journeys that I've taken in just the projects I've embarked on currently have shown me that there are opportunities. I think we just need to be willing to, roll back our sleeves and do some work. And if there are gaps that we need to close between the creative and the corporate sectors, it's our responsibility to engage those things and make sure that we are closing those gaps so that it isn't so difficult for everyone. It's, embarking on setting up your own production house and making sure that you are running multiple productions and you're absolutely lucrative and, everything's functioning well. I think it's a slow grinding wheel, and I realize that even as an experienced producer in this country, I still have to earn my stripes where that's concerned. But you just have to be willing to put the work in.
You've got to be willing to put the work in. Moreshe Matlejwane with us in studio. We'll be coming back in just a short while, so stay tuned.
Live from 27 boxes in the heart of Melville, this is brandlive.co.za.
What's happening, everybody? Catch me every Thursday on Brand Live Radio at 2 p.m. talking everything film and television. Film Chats with D every Thursday, 2 p.m. Brand Live.
brandlive.co.za.
Have you ever thought about the power of social media? Social media has the power to make your business grow. Grow! Yeah. Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.bstownmedia.co.za.
Heroes at work on Brand Live Radio at 27 boxes in Melville, Johannesburg with Chamano Makadi. Mo is my guest here today. We were talking about opportunities. Now, I want us to move and talk about some of your projects. Tell us about what you're currently doing.
Well, I'm actually embarking on a couple of things at the moment, but I'd say the most prominent at the moment is a feature film that I'm actually targeting for international market and for national release. I think it's probably one of the biggest achievements as you move into your career as a producer, where you just want to have a film. It's they say films last forever.
Yeah,
it's like writing a book.
Wow.
So the excitement is really high. I think the support structures that I've found in the country that have been offered in terms of funding, it's really great because it's also sort of opened up whole new avenues of who I get to talk to, just about co-sponsorship or support funding as well, just to make this film happen. And we'll be shooting it in East London.
Wow.
In Eastern Cape.
Okay. Talk to me about that decision, East London. One would be thinking, okay, Josie Mabone, maybe Cape Town.
Have we not seen it all? The feeling was just, we've just seen it all. We live in such a beautiful country. We have such great weather everywhere we go. We've got our own little Miamis and pockets of just paradise everywhere in this country. And I just felt that, it was time that we start exposing that. We've got tourism boards sitting in every single province. Let's start working together and start bringing relevance to our industry through, what's already available. And we just found East London just to be this very sincere little town that has everything you will need to shoot a film.
Beautiful beaches, I can almost picture that.
They're picture perfect. Warm waters, blue seas, white sands. And, I've been there different times of the year. There's no crowding on the beaches and so on. And for me, that it was great and both sad because it means that we don't even realize that it's such a beautiful holiday destination. That's just right here, short left of us.
Tell me, a project like this, what will it mean to locals? If you could just break it down for me.
I mean, for locals, and I think it's partly why even the Eastern Cape government to some degree has actually embraced us being there. You're not only talking about, because unfortunately because there isn't structures there, so you're not necessarily finding a lot of professional people who work in the industry there, but what we can bring in terms of impact of retail stores, catering company, accommodation, security, we're bringing so much business onto the ground that they saw it as an immediate opportunity to get on board. And I think if we have more of those, that we plant these films in other regions, we'll basically be opening it up and making it available for everyone.
Wow. Because I can imagine, you have young people that are also looking for, simple jobs like just being, the guy who drives the crew around.
Yes. That's a real thing.
You
and
know.
And it's for the duration that we're there. We need cost drivers, crew drivers. We need to have even just assistants, like the art departments. What they normally do is that they'll have what we call casual labor.
Yeah.
So, you're employing people at a level where they don't need skills. I just need someone who's going to help me paint this wall. Is going to move furniture here, or even carpenters, just at that basic level of just saying anyone and everyone can get involved.
Yeah. You talk about, the level of support. Are you getting any support? Is that sufficient? And I'm talking broadly speaking, with specific reference to this industry.
You see, unfortunately, the channels are still, I wouldn't say, they're very difficult to access. And I think anyone who's ever approached a DTI, an IDC or NEF, which are really great entities that I'm currently working with some of them at the moment. It's difficult, but once you do, the amounts are substantial. We are being supported by the DTI, and it's a part grant basically, so it's a rebate. And you apply for a full amount for what your film's going to cost, and then they give you a certain percentage of it, and that incentive then becomes the door opener to speak to corporates and financiers outside to say, look, I've got backing of the DTI. Let's work together and make this film, and there are prospects of making money. Yeah.
Wow. No, that sounds really fantastic. So sounds like a very interesting journey that you have now embarked on. And I'm saying this, the next thing that I'm thinking of, there's so many young people who are probably scared to even think of, ideas, implementing them, moving to the next, level of your career. How easy was it? I mean, for you, because I'm thinking to be independent. I mean, it means you basically relying, and sacrificing a lot.
Look, fortunately, my belief system, and I think that's where it all starts. We all have a belief system, and that's all that ever controls everything.
And just by the way, if you keep hearing me saying young people, for as long as you and I were not 60 as yet, we're still young. I just wanted that for the record.
That's very funny because, my father was very slick to remind me on my birthday this year that I'm no longer considered youth. So, no, absolutely. We are young. I mean, I believe we've hardly reached halfway through our lives.
That's right.
We still have a long, road ahead of us.
Yeah.
But no, just in answer your question, it's just that it is a challenge. It's a challenge to make that sacrifice and that stride. But I believe that no change comes outside of sacrifice. And it's had to take, a real bold step for me to say, I'm going to step outside of a comfort zone. Because it does. You get to a place where you, like I said, I'm producing the biggest show in SABC2. It's a flagship show. I could really go anywhere with that and become just sort of renowned as a producer. But what else am I doing? And I think when we reach a certain age, we start having a certain responsibility that we have to take on of how are we growing the spaces that we're in? How are we enriching and giving back to them? And that has been a more compelling voice as I've gotten older to make those kind of decisions in my personal life. So no, it hasn't been easy. And yes, you have to be smart and strategic about how you make your jumps. But sometimes it's just that little stretch where there's nothing there but just air and your perseverance, and you just have to jump.
Wow. They say time flies when you are having a good time. Maybe just final word more. What's your wish? And I mean for yourself, the work you're doing, and for South Africa.
Wow, that's so wide. It's like a Miss Universe question. I'm under so much pressure. Well, for myself, really, it's just to see the journey that I've taken on succeed. And not only just for myself, because I've taken into consideration a large part of what I believe is my purpose, which is, passing on of knowledge and growing what I do, and just sharing that with people who have the similar passion. If I could see that grow, that would be a beautiful wish to see into fruition. For the country, I think I can speak in perspective of the field I'm in. I think as far as the country's concerned, I'd love to see South African film be put on the map. It's really important to us. I touched very briefly that we're taking this film internationally, but we are tapping into the Caribbean, to Moscow. We're trying to push this film as far as we can, because I believe that we have both the talent, richness of story, the landscapes, the just tenacity and will, and everything that comes with telling amazing stories that the world can actually get to be enriched from.
Wow, thank you, and thank you very much indeed, Mo.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much indeed. And that's it for today's installment of Heroes at Work, live from Johannesburg at 27 Boxes. I'm Chamano Makadi, your host. Let's do this again the next time. Until then, adios.
You're listening to brandlive.co.za. ZA. Harnessing the power of talk radio. brandlive.co.za.